You're very welcome to Irish Political Roundup with me, Roisin the Cleric.
And me, Paul Brophy.
And Paul, we're delighted to be actually Irish and American again. We're going from
Brilliant.
Ireland to stateside, back into the middle of the yellow roads of Texas and the great oil state and MAGA state of America in Texas with Tracy Donegan, who is now living, as I said, in the heart of Texas. And we're going to talk about, of an Irish perspective, your perspective on pre-election and post-election with President Donald J. Trump. Let's start at the very beginning, Tracy. Tracy, you left Ireland and you went traveling, then you came back to Ireland, then you went to America, and you went to California first. So you were a Democrat before. You started off as a Democrat, like Paul and myself. Labour Party. We were Labour Party, like yourselves, and so what would you say from your perspective from an Irish Dublin woman, North Dublin woman, going to California as a Democrat, and how did you sort of have a change of perception and perspective of President Donald J. Trump and the Trump force?
Yeah, I mean, when we were I've always been a voted blue Democrat all the way, and also, only watched mainstream media, so I was getting quite one very curated, I guess, information about what was going on in US politics, and I really didn't start to question things until we left California and came to Texas. So we moved into Texas right before COVID started. Like it was December, just before kind of what hit the fan. And it was only when I got here and I started to meet people with other perspectives and starting to watch, different podcasts, hearing different opinions. And I have to say, I felt, and especially the gender ideology stuff.
Oh, yeah.
As a midwife, and going through several cancellations because I will publicly, as I will now publicly state that there is really no place for men breastfeeding babies. Child abuse, as far as I'm concerned. So let's just get that out of the way for anyone who's joining us tonight, just to get that piece of
well, that is the same I won't even say perspective. That is the same opinion of Paul and I and the Irish Political Roundup. That is, men cannot breastfeed. Men can say and think what all they want, but men can identify as a woman as all they want, but they're not women, and they should not be in women's sports, women's changing rooms, toilets, or claim to women that they should force themselves into our spaces and women's rights, because it is not women's rights.
Yeah, so for me, it was starting to see that erosion of language. You can't say, well, you can now, but you if you posted the word mother or breastfeeding instead of chest feeding, or babies coming out of a front hole, things like that, I was like, we're just getting a little ridiculous here, and I couldn't really wrap my own head around that. This can't be real. So anyway, being in tech,
medical professional,
it was bizarre, like it's. I know the word, settled science is a bit, controversial, the word, but I mean, when it comes to biology, male and female, that's it. I'm a midwife. When I don't assign a baby's sex, it's usually you like, oh yeah, that's a boy, that's a girl. And it's usually, the parents will know even before the baby arrives if they've had scans. So that was a big part of it. And then following Kara Dansky's work over here, who such a phenomenal worker and a Democrat herself, because I think I was saying to you last year, I really felt like I was getting to a point where I was politically homeless.
Yeah.
Because because I had so much, I had, what do they call it? TDR, the Trump deranged syndrome. I had it as well. I was afflicted with that psychological yeah, blinkers really. And I couldn't in a million years consider voting for Trump. But then I was watching what RFK was doing, and I thought, now that's someone I could get behind. And for anyone who kind of is seeing the bigger picture, RFK is not anti-vax. He is asking for transparency. He's asking for accountability. And I think every mother on the planet wants that for their kids. We want healthier kids. We want to look at the foods that our kids are eating. Why are certain dyes in American foods and they've been banned in Europe? So for me, I thought, okay, it looks like I'm going to be voting independent this year. And but then when Trump and RFK teamed up, and watching what was being in Texas and seeing what was happening at the border, children being murdered in Texas by violent criminals who had just walked into the country, no vetting, were free to do whatever they wanted, and unfortunately, like so many families in the US, paid a really hefty price for the Bidens and potentially Kamala's approach. And people will say to me, this whole thing about, oh, how can you, don't like, how could you put a criminal in office? Okay, but you guys let in millions of criminals just walking over the border. You put, or the idea of, you're going to put a, rapist in the White House. This idea that there was a rapist in the White House. I'm like, and yet the Democrats put rapists in prison with women. So for me, it was all of these kind of things. I was like, I can't, because I know we talked about it as well. And I was really struggling with it. I'm like, I don't know if I can in good conscience vote Democrat this time, because even watching the lead up to the election, and Kamala couldn't answer basic questions about she'd never been to the border, and the idea that we have 300,000 children missing in this country. Like, how do you, they have to be held accountable. And I think with like, when I was the first couple of days after the inauguration, I have to say, because I said to my husband, I'm like, I'm in a little bit of shock here because everything was happening so fast, all the executive orders. And I was like, I was having a little bit of maybe buyer's remorse, thinking, oh, did I do the right thing here? And but then my husband reminded me, look, Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He said on day one, this is what I'm going to do. But for me, I'm thinking, I didn't think he was going to do everything on day one. But now, like, we're 2 weeks in now, and it's like, okay, we're buckled in for this ride. There's some things that I'm really not happy about. The release of the January 6th crowd. That's kind of something that I'm still kind of wrestling with. But there's not much else that I have a problem with right now. And most of my colleagues and even colleagues in California who have seen how the wildfires were managed or mismanaged, they're like, yeah, like they're figuring out, it's like, oh, the Democrats, they really did a leverage job for 4 years.
And it's amazing to think Gavin Newsom was a name that some of the Democrats were mentioning as a potential presidential candidate in the next few years, but his whole handling of the fires in California, I think that's kind of shot that down big time.
Yeah, I think he's definitely done now, and there's other like funny, like quirky things. Like every time you turn on the news, he just puts it out there, So either you love it or you hate it. And it takes a bit of
Yeah.
adjusting to, because we've gone from 4 years of like, we don't have a president. I didn't have any leadership because, Biden was being protected, from, people knowing, and the fact that he was protected as well was like, that was a bit, yeah, hard to deal. The fact that they thought that he was going to run for another 4 years, and then, yeah, putting up Kamala was just, again, somebody who was happy to pay for, trans surgeries in prisons, and really wasn't doing anything to look for these missing children. And there's just, I have a long, long list, but I have to say, I feel relief And I because I'd gotten so used to the Democrats and it being, voting Democrat all my life, it's been an adjustment. And sometimes I forget and I think, oh no, we're not doing that anymore. We're now, it's like things are so everybody, well, I'll say everybody. I think there is I've been on that side where, when I voted for Hillary Clinton and I cried that night when she didn't win. And to go from there to relief that Trump is in, I never thought I would hear myself say that, but I like what's happening. I like what he's doing now, renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I don't know if there's a long game he's playing there, but I'm like, all right. And but he's figured out he sorted out the Panama Canal this week. And the whole Doge thing was, I thought, fascinating, and to follow like so much wasteful spending on like beyond ridiculous. So when I'm talking to people who was still kind of really voting Democrat and still feel very, very upset with what's happened, it's very hard to even, get into that mindset now and help them understand where I came from. And because of that Trump deranged syndrome, people just are focused on what he's doing. It's like, but you need to look at what the Democrats did or didn't do. And look at what they did, like only on Friday when they were doing the DNC chair. I don't know if you saw any of that footage, but it was they had, a group of a panel on stage, and they were asking like what do we need as, the DNC chair? What are we looking for? And one person stands up and says, well, I think we should have Native American representation. And then someone else stands up and says, oh, I think we need to have a trans. And I'm like, you learned nothing. You learned nothing. You're not listening to what people are saying. You've lost touch completely. I don't know how they come back from it. I'm looking at JD Vance now and I'm thinking, yeah, I wasn't sure about him, but I really like what he's doing now and how he's coming into his own.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
And the Democrats were traditionally the party of, ordinary working people in America, and they've gone completely, in a pretty bananas direction. They're probably like a lot of kind of maybe left of center parties, that get the social kind of liberal agenda has overtaken instead of the basic day-to-day ordinary issues. Like I know for one example, they asked Kamala Harris about cost of living and inflation, and he said, "Is there anything you would do differently?" And she said, "There's nothing I could think of at this moment." So there goes to show where Donald Trump, why he won so decisively.
But to me, it's like amazing how the Trump force, because Rachel writes out blonde, she calls it the Trump force. How the Trump force, everybody thinks it's just President Donald J. Trump. A lot of people forget that it's a Trump force. There is people behind the President Donald J. Trump. There is people who are, advising him. And this hasn't just been like, the last 4 years. This has been 60 years in the process of, a lot of people say deep state, and a lot of people say, but cleaning up politics. And this is what is happening. And Paul, even when you think about 5 years ago, when you came in to visit me, because we both were in the radio, we both were in the Labour Party together.
That's right. Yeah.
Paul taught me how to tally at the account centres. And, we used to canvass together for the Labour Party. I was the women's officer for Carlo Kilkenny. And I remember sitting in here and saying, and you looking at me and going, Roisin, like, are you okay? He actually thought I lost my mind, didn't you, Paul?
Oh, yeah. And looking back now, I was thinking, I'd be like, wow, we were right.
Yeah, and I used to say, Paul,
You had very good sources.
I used to say, Paul, don't have to agree with me. You don't have to, but will you just go and think about it? Will you just start joining your dots and coming up with your own conclusion? Look at this, look at this, and then look at that, and see where you come up in the beginning. And To me, it was like how the Republican Party, the Trump force, and President Donald J. Trump was Democrat. And somebody,
Tulsi Gabbard or
Democrat.
FA. Yeah, it was like something's rotten in Denmark, as they say.
Yeah.
And Tulsi Gabbard, my God, she's going to be one of the most sought after female women leaders in the world. And Susie Wise, I would say, my God, she must be going to be the most powerful woman in the world, because a very quiet woman, but stood in the background. And I used to watch the MAGA rallies, right? I used to stay up, watch all the MAGA rallies. And my son used to laugh at me. And he didn't laugh at me because he knew exactly. Because my son in 2016 used to say, if I was in America, I'd vote for Trump. This is back in 2016 and that. And I used to look at him and go, what? And so then he started telling me things. So getting to my point, I used to see Susie Wise on all the MAGA rallies when President Donald Trump would do all the stop-offs and the visits to the cafes and the shops. And you'd always see Susie Wise. I used to go, who is that lady? Who is she? Because she's always there. She's always in the motorcade. And but to me, it's how the MAGA rallies, the Republican Party had the Trump force, all got ordinary working people across America to vote Republican. There is the big disconnect. How you had ordinary people who were Democrats all going to the MAGA rallies and voting for Donald J. Trump and the Trump force and Republican Party.
Yeah,
absolutely. And in every category, Roisin, of voters, he topped the poll, and that can be seen in the result he got in the Electoral College and what he got in the Senate and in the House. So he has a massive majority now, so he can. Whereas the last time he probably had, the forces were probably against him. This time he has everything. For 2 years anyway, he has control of all the levers of the power.
When you think about it, though, people say, "Oh, Trump derangement syndrome." However, the media planted those seeds. The media was the mainstream media, and my degree is media and public relations. So, but you're understanding the theory of media, how it works. And when I was in radio, I used to have so many brilliant, amazing guests on, and I used to say, because I understood media, I used to say, no, it's the power of the platform of the radio studio that had the power to influence, plant seeds, to encourage and get the listeners with an emotion to change their opinions or to have an opinion. The mainstream media have always had a negative press about Donald J. Trump.
Absolutely. And that was one of the reasons why I felt a little, because my husband Philip, he'd kind of come around way before I did. And I remember having quite a heated discussion at one point about it was during COVID, and I was, at that point I was like, if you're not taking the vaccine, you should be locked up. That's where I was coming from. I was like, because this is what NBC was saying and CNN were saying. And I thought, and I couldn't even entertain the concept that there could be alternative facts out there, or there could be because I thought Fox News, and I never watched Fox News, and so for me, I felt, and I still feel a little bit, unhappy about the fact that I'm thinking of myself as fairly intelligent and woman, that I fell for it, and that like hook, line, and sinker for so long that Donald Trump was the enemy, and all he thought about, he was going to be a dictator and all of this, and then so I got to the other side, and now trying to encourage other people to just, I'm not going to sell you MAGA or anything, but I just listen to some other podcasts, watch different news shows. Like, don't just get everything from one source, because like when I talk to family at home, and friends, and they're looking at like the trade stuff that's happening at the moment, you know, and they're all quite panicked about it's going to start a trade war, and then there's going to be World War III, and but like we're here going, no, he's looking after Americans. That's what we want. We want someone that, and it does feel like, oh, the adults are back in the room. We haven't had anyone. We've just been like rudderless for 4 years. We didn't know we had a president. We knew somebody was running the show, or some people were running the show, but we knew Biden wasn't. So yeah, to be in kind of on the other side of it now, and trying to, you know, as compassionately as you can, help people understand, look, I've been where you've been. I shared all the exact same, because it was all I was seeing on the mainstream media was Trump was the devil. Democrats are for the working people, and yeah, and then so I feel like, yeah, I was lied to, and was I lied to, or did I just not bother trying to learn more because I thought the media was being honest, and they weren't.
I'm curious, Paul, before, right, because I'm going to,
Yeah.
I'm
Go ahead.
curious, what, can you remember the very pivotal moment when, or situation when you went, oh my God, you know, the Trump supporters may have be onto something, or did the Democrats do something? Do you remember that pivotal moment when you went, okay?
I think it was just the fact that they had gone so all in on the gender ideology, and and the puberty blockers and surgeries for kids, and that for me was like, oh no, we're defending this. There's no evidence, and then seeing the Cass report come out, and it just felt like, you know, the government is actively lying to people, to parents who, like, how did those parents ever come back from that? Like, how do you ever come back and say, oh my God, I was wrong to do that to my child? I just can't see like any parent ever standing up and saying, yes, oh my God, I did this, you know. But it's that for me was like the children, the trafficking, the border, all of that. It was just one thing after another that I started to question. And yeah, and then yeah, coming up to the first debate, and I was like, I can't believe I can't believe I'm starting to think about voting for Donald Trump, you know? So, but yeah, as I, you know, again, educated myself more on the issues, and then every time Kamala was asked a question, like she dodged the questions. And anytime, like, you can't shut Donald Trump up. You act like, you see what he's like in the White House now. Like every opportunity he gets to talk to the press, he cannot wait. And you're sitting there looking at the clock, go, okay, I'm sure he has other things to do, but he just keeps going. So we feel like we actually have a president again, that somebody that cares about us, that cares about the cost of living, that cares about the kids, that cares about the women. That for me is again like that feeling of relief. I talk to people at home and they're panicked about it. I'm like, we're not panicked. We're very, very happy. He's looking after, number one, he's looking after us. We have looked after the rest of the world for a long time. Now it's time for America to literally, you know, become what it can be again, you know. So
And the economy, and you know, we have we must actually have you on with our American correspondent Adam DeVito, and he always said to us from day one, Roisin, it is not a trade war, it is trade negotiations.
yeah,
And I went, that's exactly it. It's about negotiating and really having a bit of respect for America. And maybe Ireland, you even think that, well, let's hope the Taoiseach, the Taoiseach, the government, and Irish politicians in the opposition as well might start having a bit of respect for Ireland, and might actually start copying and following suit in respecting the Irish people, respecting and listening to the Irish people of what we want, the voters. And Tracy, because we met through the transgender ideology. We met here in Ireland, and we met about the referendum, and we were canvassing together for the referendum. We were canvassing. Everybody was canvassing whatever way they could, but it also shows you the disconnect that Ireland had, which was within the two referendums back in March 2024.
Yeah, it is. I'm kind of watching both sides now to see how Ireland is responding to, you know, the new president, and it is interesting because you can see it from both sides. But I feel like, you know, when I get up in the morning and I put on the news and I see, you know, the ICE raids, and I see murderers and child molesters and rapists being rounded up and put on planes and leaving the country. Like, I want that for Ireland. And I think a lot of people in Ireland want that as well. It's time to end all of this nonsense. It's time to have an immigration policy that actually respects Irish people and the people that are coming in, you know, you can't have people living in tents, and there was no forethought. So I think that part of it. And yeah, Irish people want to feel like they're important to their politicians.
And politicians are supposed to be representing the people, not the people. And I think politics has just become so corrupt and so self-serving that politicians, some people might say they were representing big corporates and forgot that their job and role and responsibility was to represent the people of Ireland and to manage Ireland and look after Ireland and protect Ireland and defend Ireland and make sure that we had a good economy to actually have no children go hungry, no homeless, no animal sort of neglect, no family. And you think about the crime in Ireland that is happening right now, and you know, you've got this thing is, where is the crime? And you can go into that, but I think, you know, and I think everybody knows that I was a Trump supporter from my ex and Twitter feed for a long time. And when Donald J. Trump came to Ireland, I don't know how I got in, but I got into Doonbeg Hotel when he was there, and he was sitting in the bar just like 10 feet away from me. And I remember thinking, this is history. This is history. And, you know, and all the press were outside and everybody was so negative. And I went, no, he's here for a reason. And the trade negotiations, he's a businessman.
Yeah.
He also and he's a really good businessman, and he's a builder. Maybe he might give the Irish housing department and the Taoiseach and Taoiseach some advice of how to solve the Irish housing crisis.
The housing crisis, the crisis with all of the nurses and midwives and teachers leaving the country, the cost of living. You know, I think it was kind of brought home to me there after the big storm that you guys had, and like seeing that, like days after, there were still, and maybe I don't know even if it's still going on, where people were
still people without electricity and heating,
power and water, basic things
like this is, and it reminded me of what was happening in North Carolina, the way these people were just abandoned by the government. So what I would love to see is a DOGE investigation into Irish government spending, because like after that nonsense about the bloody bike thing that they spent, what, 300 grand on? Because what we're seeing in these DOGE publications like that are coming out every day, like 50 grand, 50,000 was going, was it 50,000? I think it was 50,000 was going to Gaza for condoms. Some kind of experiment on hamsters and tequila or something, like, so absolute like waste of taxpayer money, you know. So I'd love to see that. That would you know, transparency in government spending, I think, would be good for everybody. But yeah, who's going to be the MAGA or mega in Ireland? Like, who's?
We don't have one. I think we have a lot of people, you know, I think there might be one or two political well-named profilers, I would say that again. I think there is one or two, or maybe 3 or 4 sort of Donald Trump supporters politically here. I think they're working behind the scenes. I think, as I said to Paul, as soon as and I put it up on Twitter, as soon as Donald Trump won the election, I bet there was a negotiation team on the first flight out to Miami and in Mar-a-Lago, and playing golf with President Trump and doing deals on the golf course. You know, that was doing. And I remember the 2020 election, Paul and I were covering it for local radio. And I remember, what did I say to you, Paul?
Something doesn't add up. It's not right. Something's not right.
Yeah, I said that in February 2020. Paul, I remember going, okay, you have Leo Varadkar getting in on the 5th count. You had
15 count, I think.
No, was it not Simon Harris 15th count? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said the Taoiseach getting in on the 5th count, and there was other people. I said, there's something not adding up here, you know. And then I remember just thinking, that intuition going, and I remember looking around going, what's happening? And I went, Paul, there's something not adding up here. There's something going on here. And now if you fast forward that, you go, aha, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that people are not talking about. But will it come out in a couple of years' time what exactly was going on behind the scenes? And I really do think so. I think a lot of people, possibly in my opinion, could it be a bit naivety to think that, oh my God, Donald Trump's in and now everybody's in a panic. People knew President Donald J. Trump was going to get re-elected. It was in the cards. It was written on the sky and the ceiling. So I would say there's an awful lot of, as soon as, I would actually say before the election, there was a political negotiation team already working with the Democrats, with Trump, not with the Republicans, with President Donald J. Trump and his negotiating team. And we also have a new ambassador.
Edward Walsh.
Yeah. So I wonder, Walsh is a Kilkenny name. I wonder, does he have any relatives here in Kilkenny? Be interesting. So Tracy, as soon as the MAGA rallies, you're in Texas, they were some of the biggest MAGA rallies in Texas. What were you hearing from people talking about? Did they go to the MAGA rallies or?
Yeah, there was talk of him coming to Houston for a rally up in the Woodlands. And so I was like talking to everybody in Houston, if you can get tickets, I want to go, because I think it is a piece of history to be at one of these rallies. So everybody that has been has said it was absolutely amazing, and the energy, and but what I will say is, because I have friends and colleagues that will, they see something on the news today and they'll say, oh, look what your president's doing. That's your president, and what I'm trying to get to is, look, I'm just going to give him a chance. I am impressed with what he's done so far. Let's give him a chance. And who knows, like in 4 years' time, I might be saying, it was a mistake to vote for him. He's just as corrupt as everybody else, and we're back to square one. Or he's going to do what he said he'll do, and have another 4 years of Republicans in the White House.
But he's already delivered on what he said he would do. When he was asked in an interview, when will he get straight to the desk and start doing what he said he'd do, he said within 2 hours of the inauguration. And within 2 hours of the inauguration, he was doing the executive orders. And one of the first executive orders was the transgender ideology.
Yeah.
On the day of the inauguration. And so he was at the desk within 2 hours. Here in Ireland, we had our general election in the 29th of November, am I right? 29th
That's
of
great,
November. And we're still at the in the first week in February, and they're fighting the big row over speaking rights.
time, yeah.
There's rows over this, and it makes you wonder: is it all just a big distraction? Is it just theatre?
Mm.
You know,
It's theatre that the taxpayers are paying for, dearly.
and the people of Ireland are paying for it, because
That's what I
nothing's
mean.
been
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
You know, nothing's been done. So it makes me wonder, what is the real reason? But I suppose we might find that going forward, and maybe this time next year we go, that's what it was. But the inauguration, tell us, what was the feeling about the inauguration? I remember listening to a couple of the podcasters, and a couple of very good sources said to me that Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, will not be outside in his inauguration. And I mentioned it with Adam Dorito beforehand. So, and it was true to the source's words. It was changed to the inside. You had the former president said that they wouldn't arrive and wouldn't be at the inauguration, and there they were sitting. Although Mike Obama was very absent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and she didn't go to President Carter's funeral either. So yeah. No, the inauguration was fantastic. It was, I think when I heard that they were moving it indoors, there was a bit of part of me thinking, I'm actually glad, because I just felt like there was all of these kind of undercurrents about, you know, is there gonna be another attempt made on his life? And I was like, yeah, let's just get indoors, please. Let's control the controllables. And then, but it was, yeah, I mean, I spent the day just glued to the TV, and like, because it was like, finally the day's here, and they didn't get to him, you know. So it was really, really great to watch, and also that feeling of disbelief that it happened, and that nightmare the last 4 years is over to some extent. But it was a really glorious day here in Texas.
Yeah, because I have some notes here in front of me from the inauguration. The first words out of Donald Trump's mouth were, "The golden age of America has begun. America will be great again." So I suppose that kind of set the tone. And I don't know about uh, you, Tracy, but like for me, look, you know, you're living in America for a good period of time now. Our politics looks really boring in comparison, because whether you agree with Donald Trump or whatever, the inauguration, it was some spectacle.
Yeah. Yeah. He does. He brings the entertainment, and you just don't really know what to expect. Boring, he will never be.
Certainly not.
No.
The military respect President Donald J. Trump. And as a Defence Force mammy myself, I've always maintained, you can tell the morale of the nation when you see watch and see the morale of your Defence Forces and your police force. But President Donald Trump, like, you can just see the respect that the military have for President Trump. No,
and they had tolerated so much, Roisin. They were putting up with the DEI nonsense for a long time. And again, like our military is there to protect our nation. Why do they need drag shows? And from what I understand, those a lot of the trans military were unable to be deployed, and they were like essentially on disability. So I just thought it was time for a change. And my friends that are, you know, have served in the armed forces are like, we're back, you know, we're back. And then like we're watching some of the appointments, and like Pete Hegseth. I will have to say again, I'm like, oh, I don't know about him. But then again, I'm like, because there was all of this stuff that was coming out about affairs and sexual assault, and I'm like, I don't know who to believe anymore. But I think it's above my pay grade to decide who's the best person for that job. And I think Trump seems to have a good team around him this time, who will, I think, ensure that we have a plan that we're going to execute. and we're going to execute it really quickly.
And it's not
Right.
about people say Trump. This is about America. This is about looking after the American citizens. This is about looking after the America country and providing for the citizens of America. And
Yeah.
that brings a lot of pride when you can say you've got a president and he didn't take a paycheck or a dime
No.
or a nickel. Is that what you have in America? I've got it right. For as in his last role as president, and he'll probably not take it again. He doesn't need the money.
And I think that's part of the attraction. He
Yeah.
cannot be bought like every other not like every other Irish politician, but you know what I mean? It's, you know, the corruption in politics. If you can't be bought, that's a very powerful place to be in.
Yeah. You know, and when you think about is that the people he was asked to run as a president. So it wasn't, oh, I'm going to be president. Was it 200 generals right now? I could have the numbers wrong, but the military asked President Donald J. Trump to run for the presidency. They asked him, so the military asked him to run. That is like, my God, like the honor of
and then Roisin, like 2 assassination attempts. I mean, one, I'd be like, peace out, lads. You're on your own, you know. But 2, like, and then people say, oh, he's just in it for the ego, whatever. Like, yeah, there could be a part of that, but I'm liking what he's doing, ego or not. So,
well, do you know the ego or not? I think you know, you have to have ego. What is it? Is the ego? Is it the thing that motivates you? Is the ego all about you? You know, no matter what, he could be off having a good life. He could be on these golf courses playing golf. He's what, 70 something years of age. He could be spending time with his beautiful wife Melania and his grandchildren and his children. He could be building up his big empire. In Scotland next July, he'll be opening up his new golf course. Right, so he has the best golf courses, the best hotels in the world. The one down in Doonbeg, the golf course down in Doonbeg in County Clare on the ocean is a very historic golf course. It used to be a train. You know, it's very historic. You know, and it was and how it was built and the dunes and the way they are. And when you go down there, there's an absolutely beautiful feeling. It's like, I keep going, the energy here. You know, it's like really clean energy, and so he doesn't have to be going out and getting attacked by the media. The media used to love Donald Trump when he was an entrepreneur and a businessman. They loved him. The Democrats loved him. And then when he just started to say, okay, the corruption, and when he was asked and when he was asking questions, the media and the establishment, the Democrats all turned on him. Because, you know, when you think about like what is happening under politics worldwide, we all have to be wondering what has happened to humanity. And when you think about the child trafficking in America and the child trafficking in Ireland, America put Ireland on tier 2 of the child trafficking watch list. And during COVID, in 2022, while we were all under 2 kilometers and 5 kilometers restrictions, the Irish citizens, the land, sea, and air was open to international travelers. So that didn't stop the child trafficking or human trafficking. So, but Donald Trump that was one of the first things he did with the child trafficking, human trafficking, and, you know, the exploitation, you know, everything of human beings, and saving the children. You know, I think that's one of the he's always said it's about the children. That's always been what he said.
And yet, Roisin, when you turn on the news here today, you're going to see so many Democrats literally crying into their TikToks for these poor migrants that are being deported. I'm like, what about the 300,000 children that came over the border that have disappeared? What about the kids that were abused or murdered? And what about American kids?
Yes.
Like, no, let's focus on what's happening in
and the drugs
who are here illegally. They broke the law when they came in. That's
And the cartels. He went for the cartels. He went because where there's drugs, there's human trafficking, and there's weapons. And when you think used to say drugs and
Some
weapons
money.
was the biggest industry, now they say it's child trafficking has surpassed them of 150 billion. Am I right on that? I did that.
150 billion.
50 billion is we have it in the child
Biggest
trafficking one.
industry, isn't it, in the
Industry.
world? Like, and yet we've cut down. I think in the last since Border Patrol and ICE are allowed to do their jobs again. I think our people coming over the border now, it's down something like 93%.
Yes.
Just in the last 2 weeks.
Oh.
And then is it correct me if I get my mispronunciation. Is it Kirsty Noam? She's riding, I think, with a cowboy hat and with the border control. You know, that is just like down to earth basics of border control. She's out there riding the horse, you know, along the borders. Where do you see that here? You know, it's like Donald Trump or the Trump administration have the people they put in charge have them down at the basics and grassroots, and instead of just a pen pushers. You know, that's what they're being paid for. You know, you're not just there a pen pusher. Oh, I don't know nothing about this. He's got, from what I see, he's got the right people for the right jobs. It's not just, oh, you know, you've been rewarded. There's a ministry job. There's a post.
Yeah.
But
it is going to be, I think it'll be interesting to see now with the rest of the confirmations now the next couple of weeks, hopefully sooner rather than later, because the Democrats seem to be stalling on everything. But I just, when Kirsty Noam on her first day on the job, while she was walking in, I don't know if you saw it, they're playing this country song called One Hot Mama. As she's walking in, and I'm like, only in America.
And Nancy Mace, look what Nancy Mace did about the toilets.
Yeah.
You know, so you think we're looking now and you think, oh, like here in Ireland, they're going on about the gender quotas. Now, most women don't want to be gender quotas. Women don't want to be put into positions for a PR box ticking exercise. And women don't want women just elected because that's putting off women going into politics, because they don't want to be a PR showpiece. They want to go in there. I want to get in there and dig down and do the work.
Yeah.
I have a cat snoring. I wonder if you can.
No.
But that's what I'm seeing, especially with the women that Donald J. Trump has selected, from Susie Wise to Tulsi Gabbard to Nancy Mace to Kirsty Noam. Who am I forgetting? You know, he's putting in strong women who are not afraid to get their hands dirty and riding the horse, you know, and getting up on the horse and everything else, and doing the job. Tulsi Gabbard, Lieutenant Colonel, I think, and am I right? She
got an awful grilling last week. And even like I thought Bernie Sanders, because I think she has history with Bernie, as in helping Bernie out. I think he was a little on Tulsi, and then, but I'm quite interested to see if Kash Patel makes it through.
Yeah.
Because he has promised to release the Epstein files, and I think there's probably a lot of very worried people out there that don't want those documents being released. So,
and what happened at that Epstein Island that an awful lot of people don't want to talk about, or actually don't want to face the reality of what happened there. When you think about Hollywood, what is it coming out by Diddy? I would say that is just the top layer. I would say if people really understood what happened in Hollywood, they would go, oh my God. And I remember saying on radio, Tracy, and this is going back 2017-18 when the Me Too movement came out. I was disagreeing with everybody and said the Me Too movement, it was here to cover up the Harvey Weinstein. It came from Hollywood. The Me Too movement is manufactured to be controlled by Hollywood to cover up and control the narrative of what gets out. And everybody's saying, oh, the Me Too movement. I go, no, something's not right here.
Yeah.
It's all controlled and managed.
Yeah. And then you had the BLM movement as well, and where that went. Yeah.
The
yeah.
inauguration, your first lady, we cannot talk about the inauguration, or she is the first lady, Melania Trump, am I pronouncing her name? You know, she's very dignified. A lot of people, you know, the negative media, she's so dignified. She's a wife, she's a mother, she was a daughter first, and she, you know, she did an awful lot of good in the first term of office as first lady. Again, they just really went for her, and
And they're
even
still doing it now. I think, you know, Vogue had come out. Was it Vogue that were dissing her portraits, and I think,
I
okay.
thought her outfit was absolutely beautiful. I thought her outfit was also. They all talk about how the Queen of England always make symbolic communications with her clothes and what jewelry she wear. We communicate in what we're wearing. It is a form of communication.
Yeah.
Her
With
outfit
similar
was certainly.
outfits.
I thought the First Lady, Melania Trump's outfit was a massive communication, and it's very symbolic. And I thought she's very dignified and beautiful. And I think it's, you know, and also they say about the marriage, they're always saying about, you know, President Donald J. Trump's and Melania's marriage. It's like they want to, the media put all these narratives out. Do you know what? And then they made a big thing about the hat. You could see her putting her head forward and the smile, the pride in that smile, and you know, the dignity. And I think is elegant. You know, she does. She reminds me of Princess Diana in her elegant style and clothes and her dignity. And you know, she's representing America, and you know, that is something amazing. And she's bringing back the ladylike femininity and dignity back for women as a role model. You look at the awards ceremony. I didn't even follow awards ceremonies. You see any red carpet celebrity thing, they're not even wearing clothes. It's tacky. Let's bring back fashion and style that is dignity, and where women say, I can't wait to get dressed tonight. I can't wait to get my new outfit. Instead of just, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and what you wear does not have to be a political statement. Can we just get past that, you know?
Yeah.
Wear clothes that we like to wear because they're nice.
You know, I think that to me is and Baron Trump, my God, you know, nearly 7 foot, you know, you have to say when he went in, he was elected, the Baron was just a young child. And now he's, you know, he's really, you can just see that he has presence when you walk in, not just because of his height, but his whole dignified manner as an 18, 19, 18,
18, I think, yeah.
age. So
I think the world wants to know what he said to Biden.
Yeah.
A lot of people have
Exactly.
suggestions of what they think he said. I think that'll probably that'll go to the grave.
And I think a lot of lip readers have said when he went up to his mom, she said, "Be nice."
Be nice. Yeah. Isn't that's always the mothers? Be nice now.
I got all mothers saying that, be nice. But so
absolutely.
going forward now, so you're a woman, and we've talked about the female role models in politics at the moment, and they are, as we said, they're not just box ticking PR exercise. They're women who've been asked to do the job because they're the right women for the job, the right person for the job. So, and you've mentioned J.D. Vance. You've also mentioned Pete Hegseth, I'm pronouncing Hegseth, and Rash Patel. Is there anybody else you think, okay, watch that, this lady or gentleman?
Well, I mean, of course, like my money is on RFK to really, again, make America healthy. Again, I don't know, we haven't been healthy for a long time, but I think again to have that transparency into, you know, who's getting paid off by the pharmaceutical companies. There's all these, all the deals that are being done, and I think he's the right man for the job. But interestingly enough, it's in the birth, and this shows you how short-sighted people can be. Within the birth community, there is quite a divide since the election. from doulas and midwives who, again, are only seeing the CNN Donald Trump, and now that RFK is talking about, like, I think he's connected with Dr. Stu, who is a really well-respected, was an obstetrician. He does breech birth. He's well-respected around the world. And what I understand is that he's been invited to, collaborate in the MAGA movement. So for me, I'm thinking, oh, this is fantastic. We're going to make, birth better in America, because we have spent, I think we spend more than any other developed nation, and we have the poorest outcomes when it comes to pregnancy and birth. So, but it's been so interesting to see doulas who cannot let themselves consider that this could be a really good thing, and instead they're stuck in the democratic notion that RFK is a junkie, yeah, he's gonna take money or whatever. And I think we need to just try to get on the same page at some point here if we're gonna come together and just get past the division, and really, like, the golden age of America, we're back, but we're going to do it together.
Yes. And it's about going back to people, people being the first point of call for politics. Politics starts with people within the small local communities. That's where politics starts. And politicians are there to represent the people and to deliver for the people, from the rural communities, small local villages, the towns, the high streets, and the cities, and then the counties and regions of who they represent. But I do think, when you think about it, the media, when you think how people have been divided, and I saw this coming too, maybe that's why I lost so many friends and lost so many things, is I used to say, and it's Paul, Paul used to look at me and go, "Oh, Sinead, are you okay?" And I said, "But Paul, just bear with me." But that thing too is, you're not allowed to have a difference of opinion. You weren't allowed to have a difference of opinion. And I noticed that from about 2010 here in Ireland. You weren't allowed to have a difference of opinion about someone. You were cancelled, you were ghosted, you were just silenced. And then when you think about it, the media, then I noticed that in the media, you couldn't interview someone who had, the role of the media is to have two opposing balance of guests on to talk, one for and one against. That was all taken off. It was all just one-sided. And so guest topics, so content in all the forms of print, broadcast, and TV media was all censored. And you can always see it's the same click of guests on every media platform. It was just a click. And it still is to this day.
And it still is. Only gripped media seem to have any kind of, alternative, not say alternative, real world view of kind of big picture view. But yeah, I'd love to see what Elon Musk would do to all the NGOs in Ireland.
How many is it? 33,000 or 36,000?
33,000, yeah. It's about 6 billion a year they spend.
And where were them NGOs who are paid to represent the people who the people that, and who they're supposed to represent as an NGO? They actually were just lobbyists. They were lobbying, and they were just doing the works of politicians, and they were doing what they were told instead of questioning. You never hear one thing, as a divorced mother who divorced when my children was 6 and 2, when I separated. You hear all this about diversity and the Be Kind group. Oh, be kind, the hashtag Be Kind, which is just word salad, Piers Morgan's famous words. You never hear, when you all the Be Kind and all the women, you never hear any politician talk about single mothers, single moms, raising their children on their own. And there's no diversity, inclusion, and equality for those. The women are completely forgotten about. It's, oh, she's a single mother. Oh, oh, your children is so ambitious. This is something. I got asked by a teacher, oh, your daughter is so ambitious, she must take after her father. This came from a
Wow.
teacher who sat in that chair over there and said that to
I'd
me.
be like, can you repeat that, please? I thought
Yes,
you,
but-
I think you said her father. Yeah, no.
you know, from a father who refused to even send her a Christmas card or a birthday card since she was 6. Oh yeah, he's so ambitious, you know. But the social moral injustice within society, I think now we're on the cusp of actually bringing back humanity. You know, people might say that's a bit ambitious, but we're at that cusp of doing that.
Common sense and
Common
humanity.
sense.
Yeah.
And Tracy, so you have optimism, okay? There's going to be people out there. I can understand when you're saying people are saying you're president. Now, people are going to say that here in Ireland. Roisin and Paul, what are you talking about? You know, that's President Donald J. Trump in America. Why are you so? But we have been fed. If you think, I was born in 1967, and then they go research is saying that this all started, the MAGA movement and getting all this where we are today started in the 60s, the 60s with John F. Kennedy, right? So I was born in 67. So it's taking, and they say it started even before that, the time, and when you think Ireland too, of the Titanic, from the Federal Reserve and the federal banks. So if you all add this together, it's over 100 years that's been in the making of changing society, changing perceptions, and planting seeds very slowly, and creating in selecting people to elect them to either become politicians, in the media, to become actors or actresses, singers, or even just community activists. They were selected, managed, and marketed to influence people. And when you hear the same thing over and over again with certain words, certain images and everything else, that message becomes embedded within society. So there's a lot of unraveling that had to be done to get us where we are now. Whereas I think we lost humanity. We lost common sense. We lost dignity and honor within society. And I'm hoping that we bring this back. My God, I didn't think I'd be saying the things tonight with each.
Yeah.
But I know, like, I never in a million years, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, you're going to be, you know, talking about voting for Donald J. Trump, I would have, yeah, that ain't ever happening. And here we are. Never say never. Open your mind.
Never say never.
The most amazing thing is, you know, they have this narrative of President Donald J. Trump being a misogynist. He's, you know, and women hate him, and he's this. But when I was watching everything over the last say 20 years, when you think this is 2025 and the elections and stuff there was more women supporting President Donald J. Trump and all the MAGA women, and MAGA was women, strong, independent-minded women were supporting President Donald J. Trump.
Donald Trump, Roisin and Tracy, he got votes in places where you didn't expect. In every voter category, I know in America they like that. He was not top the poll many times over comfortably. So it just goes to show he had a very, very broad appeal. And I suppose that's probably the biggest problem that the Democrats have is now how they won't.
Colorado, though, he didn't get.
Colorado
is still more Democrat, as Adam DeVito would say. And I think, you know, Tracy, it's lovely to hear your perspective of an Irish woman who lived in California, a Democrat, moved to Texas, and had a completely change of perception and perspective of society and politics in America.
And I could invite some of my Mexican colleagues to sit down and have exactly the same conversation. They are because I think what you're seeing the last couple of days is protests. There were protests in Dallas, there were protests, I think, in LA over the weekend, and the waving of the Mexican flags. And like my friends who are, again, like first generation Mexican, came over legally, have built a life here, and they're like, we love what Donald Trump is doing. We want him to do this. And then they're sending me videos from like Mexican TikTok and the Mexican people themselves saying, we want our version of Donald J. Trump. And I'm like, I know and even when people in Ireland say to me, you know, oh, it's terrible what's going on here with the open borders and all the scandals, whatever. I'm like, yeah, I know. You want what we have.
Yeah.
You want Donald, but you can't have him. We got
Yeah.
But
I think
we want
they're
strong
jealous.
leadership. We want strong leadership. We want
Yeah.
leaders. Leaders are not leaders anymore. Like it's plain to see, like, no, well, there isn't even any strong. We're women. There isn't any women in leadership who I would say I admire and respect anymore. Who I would look up to. But I think we're gonna. And what I've seen is, you know, all through the gender ideology, Tracy. I know you're a good few years younger than me, but it was
Not
all
really.
women. It was all women from 40 up and midlife women and older who were actually standing up for common sense and for the women's rights and the dignity of women and children. It was, and I think we're going to go back. And I remember for years I got really disheartened because, all 20-year-old women and 30, and I'm talking about my daughter here, who's 33, thought, they know it all, they know it all, midlife women. It's coming back to, what it's coming back to? Wisdom, life experience, and knowledge.
Yeah.
And you can't buy wisdom.
Yeah. And Roisin, it is that, women of a certain age have no F's left to give.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not going to sit down and be quiet anymore. You've released the Kraken.
And then when you get through the menopause, you don't care who likes you anymore. If you don't like me, tough. I can live with that. I have no more F's to give, that menopause, don't care, and I think that's so liberating. And we should actually talk more about that too on here and Confident Women Island, about women's hormones and how it all went so pharmaceutical, HRT range, and that happened here in Ireland, all this HRT. And I remember saying that too. I was one of the first broadcasters to talk about menopause. And then I stopped. I said, there's something wrong here, listening to Joe Duffy. And the two people who emailed Joe Duffy was messaging me. I go, no, I'm turning off after 20 minutes, because if I was a company or anything, I would not employ a woman over the age of 40 or even 35. So it's about bringing that common sense back, respecting. You can't buy wisdom, you can't buy life experience, and you can't buy knowledge. It has to be all done by experience.
It's earned. Yeah.
So, Tracy, it's been absolutely fabulous, as always, talking to you. And
yes, indeed.
In the description box below, I'm going to put our previous videos I did with you, because you're new to Paul, but not to the Irish Political Roundup with women's voices and opinions episodes. So we're going to keep continuing them, and Paul is going
let's check in 6 months and see where we're at.
Exactly.
So, Tracy, you'll keep us up to date on what you're hearing in Texas, and maybe we'll get you on with Adam Dorito, and he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing, and he just says it as it is, and he's a great patriot as well, and it's even at that. You're not allowed. It's like you're right-winged if you say you're a patriot. It's no. Oh, don't get me started. And I laugh when people, they know they can't say I'm right wing because they know me, and I can prove, well, if I'm right wing, I wouldn't have done this, I would have done that. And but it's always a pleasure to speak to you. And we could talk for 10 hours at a go, but
I know, because I remember we were texting the day of the inauguration and the night of the election. I was, oh, come on, Roisin, we gotta. And I just knew, I had a feeling. I think we were both saying, I feel it in my bones. He's gonna do this. You know,
we knew. And we knew that President Donald J. Trump was, and I kept saying, wait till 2025, the gender ideology will be gone by the end of 2025. And you know what? It's already started. And I knew that. I got gender, yes. And
it's gone in the first week. We didn't have to wait a year.
2 hours, 2 hours. He kept his word.
Yeah. He's efficient.
200 executive orders in a couple of hours, you know. It's kind of refreshing for, some might say it's refreshing to see a politician actually keep their promises.
Yes, yeah, that was it. Well, what's his slogan? Promises made, promises kept. I like that.
Tracy Donegan, North Side Dublin, Irish lady living in the heart of Texas. Thank you so much indeed for taking your time to come back on the Irish Political Roundup, this time with Paul and myself.
Anytime. Nice to see you, Paul.
Very nice meeting you, Tracy, and thanks for taking the time to chat to us.
Yeah, no, we'll talk again.
You know what? You know, anytime at all, anything you want to get on here, just give us a text and we'll have you on.
Absolutely.
Tracy Donegan, thank you so much indeed.